page turners, welcome back to another video. Today is World Orca Day. So orcas, or killer whales as they're more commonly known, are one of my favorite animals in the whole world. They are just so beautiful and mesmerizing, but also like their hunting capabilities are incredible. They are just one of the most interesting and unique animals to me in the animal kingdom. So, the book that we're going to be talking about today is this one, Freeing Keiko, The Journey of a Killer Whale from Free Willy to the Wild. So, if you guys have ever seen the movies Free Willy, then you will know exactly who Keiko is. So Keiko was a killer whale who was caught off the coast of Iceland way back in like the 1980s, and he was captured, put into an aquarium in Mexico, and then from there he began his captivity journey, and then into the Free Willy movies where he starred in 3 of them. So there's 4 Free Willy movies in total. So he was in Free Willy 2, The Adventure Home, and Free Willy 3, The Rescue. So when you're younger and you're looking at things like that and you think, oh, they're beautiful, they're being well looked after, things like that. And to tell you the truth, and I'm not sure how much like flack I'm gonna get for talking about such a controversial topic, but orcas in captivity are often malnourished, neglected. They're often by themselves as well, which is really sad because orcas are pod animals like any other dolphin, because they are a dolphin themselves, even though they are called killer whales. So when you think about it, if you're being taken from your family and put into a tank by yourself, then, there is going to be a lot of issues, a lot of problems, which then brings me to another famous killer whale called Tilikum. So, Tilikum was a killer whale at SeaWorld, and again, similar sort of thing happened. He was taken from his family, put into all different aquariums. He was actually moved quite often, and unfortunately there was a lot of like mental health issues and things like that. And at the end of the day, they are a wild animal. They are not going to behave exactly how you would want them to behave all the time. Like, even take something like, I don't know, a red panda, for example. You can train them to interact with people, you can train them to be fed, but, at the end of the day, they are still a wild animal, and they will, if they are upset enough, they will snap and they will scratch you or bite you. So, unfortunately, in Tilikum's case, he ended up killing one of his trainers. So, it was quite horrific what happened to the trainer. If you guys watch the Blackfish documentary, it goes a lot more in depth into Tilikum's story. And in reading this book, and I haven't finished this book yet, I've just read like the first few chapters, but I've got another couple of books about Tilikum and about another famous killer whale, Shamu, where the whole SeaWorld Shamu thing began. And very, very possible that Keiko and Tilikum were actually from the same pod because of where they were caught. They were both caught off the coast of Iceland. Yes, they were caught at different times, but orcas will stay with their family pretty much forever, and they won't really leave their mums. And one of the characters in the first Free Willy movie, Ray, who is a trainer, she mostly works with the seals and she tries to work with Willy, but he just does not like her at all. And she even says some of them spend their whole lives with their mums and they never leave them. So again, that brings me back to the point that I was making about, how if you're taken from your family and you're put in, this concrete prison essentially, about, you are going to go a little nuts. And there's a part in the movie where the main character, Jesse, he's a young boy and he forms a bond with Willy through playing the harmonica and just sort of looking at him essentially. And they just form that bond, whereas Ray and one of the guys at the marine park, Randolph, who is honestly, he's such a cool character, they try anything and everything they can to, try and get Willy to do what he needs to do to perform for a crowd. And Willy's pretty much like, nah, not interested, don't want to do that. And Randolph even says to Jesse, because Jesse falls into Willy's tank, but normally if you fall into an orca's tank, it is big trouble and you're essentially like a goner. But because Willy has, looked into Jesse's eyes and they form that bond through the harmonica playing, he's like, hey, hang on a minute, this is my friend, I need to get him out of the water so he doesn't drown. So Willy pushes him up with his nose up out of the tank and just sort of stays there until Jesse regains consciousness. And then once he knows that Jesse's going to be okay, he's like, yep, all good, I'm just going to go swim around sort of thing. So, and then that's when Randolph's talking to Jesse about how Willy's not going to get along with him or with Ray. And he says to Jesse, he says, he won't look at Ray or me, but maybe he sees you. And Randolph is actually a Native American of the Haida people. If I butchered that pronunciation, I'm really, really, really sorry. And Randolph tells Jesse a story about a young warrior called Natsiklane, and he carved the first orca whale out of a log, and they are talking about like this prayer that the young warrior Natsiklane used to essentially get this orca to help him go home. And then again, spoiler alert, they realize that there's a businessman in the movie, in the first movie, who is, he's bad news. And he just wants Willy in the aquarium because he can make a lot of money off him, essentially. Then he realizes that Willy is actually worth more dead than alive. So, like, if Willy did end up dying, that businessman would have inherited $1 million, which in 1993, when the movie came out, a lot of money. So his goons, they sabotage Willy's tank and put a hole in it so that the water like leaks out and essentially, will eventually kill him. So luckily Jesse sees what's going on. He goes and wakes Randolph up because it's the middle of the night. So he goes and wakes Randolph up and says, they're trying to kill Willy. Let's just free him and take him back to the water. So they do, and unfortunately, Mr. Businessman, whose name is Dial, he and his goons get there first. They put a net down in the water to essentially recapture Willy. Jesse sees what's going on, and Jesse's only 12 in the first movie, so, he's a young kid pretty much, but, he wants nothing more than for his friend to be happy and to be free and to be reunited with his family, because orcas, they make this crying noise when they're separated from their family. So Willy's making that noise, and then he hears his family making noises back at him from like way outside the aquarium walls. And that's when Jesse's like, no, we've got to get him out, we've got to get him back to his family. So when he sees the nets being lowered into the water, he's like, okay, I've got to figure out another way to get this whale home. So there's a big ledge, and he says, you can do it, you can be free. And then he starts saying the prayer that was in the story about Nazi Clanet. And then Randolph starts saying it, and Willy ends up jumping over this wall into the open ocean, and that's it. He's free. He can go find his family. Happy ending, the end. So that's a really nice ending for the first movie. But there's a lot more to it, which this book explains about. And I've only read up to... where am I up to? I haven't even put a bookmark into this one yet. So I'm up to chapter 7. So there is a whole chapter. So chapter 6 is actually called Free Willy. So it talks about, his journey into being in the movie and the sort of lore and a few other bits about it. So how I was talking about Randolph being from the Haida people, and that sort of thing. But in this book, it says, for the real Haida, the seafaring British Columbia tribe, the killer whale is totemic, the most respected of animals, which is kind of expected because they are apex predators. They are right at the top of the food chain in their environment. They have no natural predators. They eat great white sharks as part of their diet. Like, they are known as wolves of the sea because of their pack mentality, because they hunt in packs. And I was watching a documentary called 72 Dangerous Animals, and the Latin America one, it's talking about killer whales and their wolves of the sea mentality. So if you look at a wolf, like an actual wolf, they always hunt in a pack to bring down large prey and essentially have a huge big feast. There's a clip in 72 Dangerous Animals, Latin America, where a pack of killer whales separate a grey whale calf from its mother and just like slaughter it for food in front of the mother. So they're pretty gnarly animals when you think about it. And like, you see in Free Willy movie how, Jessie is able to interact with Willy and, pat him and get in the water with him, ride him, um, uh, rub his tongue. So that's Willy's absolute favorite thing, is having his tongue stroked. Like, he just loves it. And you wouldn't really be able to do that with a real killer whale. Like, you stick your hand in its mouth, it's gonna go chomp. So you don't want to do that. So, but anyways, so back to what I was saying about Randolph and the Haida people. So it says, for the real Haida, the seafaring British Columbia tribe, the killer whale is totemic, the most respected of animals. The Haida believe that the killer whales are supernatural beings, the most powerful of the ocean people, and that they live in underwater towns at the tips of promontories. Above the surface, these meta-orcas appear to humans like killer whales, but in their submarine villages they are like men. The Haida believe that the people drowned or lost at sea are transformed into killer whales. The drowned, taken to the house of the killer whale chief, a huge bull named One in the Sea, are fitted with dorsal fins and welcomed into the supernatural pod. One of the best Haida stories, the tribe's version of the Orpheus myth, is the tale of Nana Simjit. I apologize again if I butcher the pronunciation. A woman abducted by killer whales and sought by her husband under the sea. The Haida have a rich killer whale lore, and a lot of genuine Haida-isms might have been woven into the movie, but not a shred of genuine Haida belief finds its way into Free Willy. Randolph is played by August Schellenberg, whose mother is Choctaw, his father an Austrian ski instructor. He has a fine Native American face, and he does what he can with the script, but in the end, Randolph is just another generic wise Hollywood Indian. At one point in the film, Randolph reflects on Willy's eyes. Look into a man's soul if they want, he tells Jessie. Nonsense. A whale cannot look into the soul of a man, nor can a man look into the soul of a whale. A man, if you pause to think about it, has big trouble getting to the briefest peek into the soul of another man, or another woman, let alone the soul of another species. There is no reason to believe that a whale can do better. So that's really interesting to sort of think about that. And I have another book on my shelf which is all Native American mythology, and I went looking at the contents page because I hadn't actually read the book yet, but I just bought it because it was interesting. And I actually watched the first three Free Willy movies the other day, and it got me thinking, oh, I wonder if the story that Randolph told Jessie is in this Native American book. So I'm going through the contents and looking at all the tribes that are in the book. Like, there's Apache, there's Algonquin, there's Inuit, so like all these different Native American tribes. And again, Haida does come up, but no, they do not have that story in that book, which I was a little disappointed with, because like I do love the story that Randolph tells Jessie. So yeah, it would have been nice to have that in a book. But yeah, so pretty much what this book is about Keiko's journey from his capture into his first tank in Mexico into starring in Free Willy, and then back out into the wild again. And it's got some really beautiful pictures in the book as well. So whenever I buy like a non-fiction book and they have like these sort of little middle picture bits, I always love to look at them. So we've got a male killer whale, southeast Iceland, and you can always tell which killer whales are males because they have really, really big, tall dorsal fins. We've got wild killer whales spy hopping. So what spy hopping is where they sort of, actually, do you know what? I'm going to lower my hand like this, and they pretty much just go like up and down like that in the water. So that's spy hopping. So imagine that like the tip of my fingers are the orca's nose, and it's just going in and out of the water. So you can see just like sort of their head and a bit of their pectoral fins are in the picture. There's a couple of pictures of Keiko in Mexico. There's a picture of Keiko with Jason James Richter, who played Jesse in the first 3 movies. We've got some photos of Keiko's Oregon tank, and we've got some people looking at him through the viewing window. We've got some pictures of Kletsvik Cove in Iceland, where Keiko spends some time before being properly released. Doing some health checks on him, so they're taking blood from his flukes. And he had an unfortunate accident under the ice, and he sort of scraped up all his face. So again, these pictures are a little gruesome, so if you're squeamish, I would look away. And then there's a picture of Keiko spy hopping. So there's some really, really beautiful pictures of him in the book. And I love killer whales. They're just so fascinating. But now that I've seen sort of the darker side of orcas in captivity and things like that, like I used to want to go to SeaWorld all the time. When I was younger, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to see a killer whale, you know? But then, like, obviously, after watching the Blackfish documentary, I'm like, no, I don't want to now. Like, obviously, seeing one in the wild would be incredible, but no, not in captivity anymore. But again, my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much my little review so far on freeing Keiko for World Orca Day. I actually have a soft toy killer whale somewhere around, and I think he might be over there. But I actually bought him from SeaWorld on the Gold Coast when I was 7, because they had like a little cart with some toys and things. And like there was a lot of dolphins and things, and then I saw they had a killer whale, and I'm like, I was 7 at the time, and I'm like, I have to get a killer whale, and I've got to call him Willy. So that's what he's been. So yeah, and kind of sad as a kid, but I used to try and fold his fin over. So again, representing the movie, but nah, it's really quite sad how their fins sort of flop over. But yeah, that is my little chat about freeing Keiko and orca whales. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. If you are interested in reading this book, they have it on World of Books and eBay as well. So I bought this from eBay. because World of Books had sold out. So that's where you can find this book. Otherwise, just do a Google search and see where you can find it. So, Freeing Keiko, The Journey of a Killer Whale from Free Willy to the Wild. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And follow my Instagram for updates on when I post videos on this channel and on the Kids Club channel. So, yeah, really, really appreciate you guys joining me pretty much from the get-go. You guys are all amazing. You guys are all amazing, and I really, really do appreciate all of your support. So, I'm going to leave it there for now, but I will see you guys in the next video. I upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday, so keep an eye out for those. I am also going to do another library haul soon, so keep an eye out for that video too. And I will see you guys real soon. Bye, page turners.